What's going on, Reds fans, and what's going on, baseball fans? Thank you for finding the Locked On Reds podcast here on YouTube. This is a specific edition right here for YouTube. Didn't really have it planned this way. I have Chad Dotson on the podcast today, but my Wi-Fi was going nuts during that interview. And while Chad's end of the interview was amazing and clear and sounded awesome, and the sound quality was beautiful, my sound, this. Yeah, like a Geonosian or something from Star Wars. I don't know. It sounded terrible. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a clip, a little bit of a taste of the interview here, but the full interview can be found on the audio version wherever you get your podcast. And before I get into that, there were 4 stories, too good, too bad, that I wanted to talk to you about this Reds Dodgers series, kind of give you something here today. I'm sorry that we don't have a full podcast episode, but this is kind of a mini extra episode. I've been talking about the Reds all weekend. I got the chance to host Extra Innings with my pal Austin Elmore on 700 WLW on Sunday. We'll be hosting it again tonight if you would like to call in. That'll be after the Reds game. So the phone numbers are 749-7000 and pound 700 on AT&T. And it was a lot of fun. But talking about this team, I mean, we got what we expected. The Reds avoided a sweep. They played well enough to not get swept by this Dodgers team that is just a wagon. And they are just an amazing baseball team with great pitching, great hitting. And to be honest with you, that's where I'm starting, because with that great lineup, Luis Castillo looked amazing on Friday. We talked about him before being okay, being all right, but that's not good enough for him. I'm starting to wonder if he pitches up or down to his competition. I mean, it's kind of human nature if you think about it. If you come into a work day knowing that there's not going to be much going on, are you really working as hard as you possibly can? I get it. I understand that Castillo might be pitching against the Marlins, and maybe the Marlins because they're his former team with a little bit of different feelings, but maybe against the Pirates or the Cubs with a little bit less gusto. And then he comes into this game with the Dodgers, and holy cow, he showed the Dodgers, and that was the national headline too of that game. He showed the Dodgers the dangers of a one-game wild card playoff game. And the way that he shut that lineup down, and the Reds got just enough off Walker Buehler to beat Buehler and the Dodgers there on Friday, that was absolutely magnificent. And I take back what I said about maybe he shouldn't start the wild card game. He absolutely should start the wild card game. He was phenomenal, just had everything he wanted. Pitches were going in, out, up, down. They didn't know what to do with it there for that Dodgers lineup. I was so happy to see that. That's my number one storyline. Number 2, don't really have a cool picture for this one because I'm still trying to get some pictures for it. But the TJ Friedl story. He gets his first career hit on Sunday, and it's a home run. He's pinch hitting in the game. He hits a laser shot. Now, this was off Tony Gonsolin. This wasn't off Clayton Kershaw. A little bit more about that in just a moment. But off Tony Gonsolin, laser shot into the sun deck, and you got this Reds fan that catches the ball. But the story doesn't stop there. In case you missed it, and you can check it out on Twitter, there's now articles that are written about it, because the story captures the essence of baseball. And I talk about this a little bit. If you listen to the audio version of the podcast today, me and Chad talk about this a bit to kind of wrap up our interview. But the guy catches it he's a Reds fan. I think his last name was Diddle or Diddle or Biddle or something like that. But he apparently, according to C. Trent Rosecrans in his story, he was just here for the weekend on a bachelor's party trip, and he catches the ball. And of all people, Mookie Betts, who's playing right field for the Dodgers, goes up and asks him for the ball. Now, what on earth does Mookie Betts have to care anything about TJ Friedl? Mookie Betts is a if they were music artists, he's a multi-platinum superstar in the world of baseball. Outside of Mike Trout, he might be the best player in all of baseball. And here he is, giving a damn about TJ Friedl's first ever career hit, his first ever career home run. He comes up to the wall and he asks the guy for the ball, and the guy gives him the ball so he can take it to TJ Friedl. And Mookie Betts looks at the guy and he says, "I got you." And so he comes out in the seventh inning stretch with this awesome silver bat. You can check it out on Twitter. There's a picture of this awesome silver bat with a blue signature, blue Mookie Betts signature. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. That's something that's kind of valuable. But the story doesn't stop there. The Reds fan who caught the ball finds a Dodgers fan, a little kid wearing a Mookie Betts jersey, a couple rows over, and he gives him the bat. That kid is now a baseball fan for life. And that is the essence of baseball. That is what we love about this game. That is why it is so different from all of the other sports. I mean, as much as football players and basketball players and hockey players do awesome stuff for fans and for people in the community and things like that, during their games, there's not really that kind of moment to connect with the fans like you have in baseball. Baseball takes advantage of that so often, whether it be pregame, you got players that are just playing catch with a kid in the stands, or you've got players coming up and signing autographs pre and post game. But this was beautiful. This was everything that is awesome about baseball. The fact that you have a rookie with his first career hit that is a home run, that is exciting because now he'll tell his grandkids, "I remember my first career hit." And then not only that, the fan gives the ball back, because you always hear about like fans who catch milestone homers or something like that. And like the players having to pony up like $500,000 and maybe a house in the Hamptons, or maybe got to give him a Lambo. I don't know, like something crazy. Like they hold him for ransom, basically. But this fan understood the importance of the moment, and so did Mookie Betts, who didn't even have to. I mean, I just love this story so much. And as I say in my interview with Chad, how can you not be romantic about baseball? Of course, there's two stories that were also a little bit discouraging. The first story that I'm going to be talking about, and I love this guy to death, and I hate the fact that we are having to talk about this. He had a good start a couple of starts ago, but for the most part, the month of September has been rough for Wade Miley. Wade Miley has been everything to this ball club in the starting rotation, the most consistent starting pitcher that they had April through August. Now, as we're into September, it's a bit of a different story. He's been one of the biggest liabilities in the starting rotation, and he showed it yesterday, giving up 3 home runs. He allowed 6 runs before he even got an at-bat, and they pulled him. Now, that was the right decision because the bullpen ended up pitching amazing up until Jeff Hoffman in the 9th. But for the most part, what we've seen from Wade Miley is a completely different pitcher. And Jeff Brantley said it on the broadcast yesterday. It's all about his cutter. His cutter is his most used pitch, and with good reason. It's a very good pitch. The problem is, most of the time when it's going good, it has as much downward break as it has lateral break. So it's kind of going diagonal. When it's going bad, it's just flat. It's just got a lateral, horizontal. I never remember what that's called. Horizontal, I think, is what it's called. But whatever. It goes side to side, and it stays flat. It doesn't have any lateral break to it. So because of that, hitters see it better and they kill it. And that's what happened. I mean, you had, I believe it was Gavin Lux or Corey Seager, one of the two, only saw 2 pitches and had ridiculous. I think it was Gavin Lux. He had like a homer and a double off of seeing only 2 pitches from Wade Miley because they saw that cutter so well. It was just an unfortunate day. And then left-handed hitters too, both Lux and Seager. So it was just sad to see because that's the matchup that he should take advantage of. And it has me wondering, I've been saying for a while now that if the Reds do make that second wildcard spot, that Wade Miley should almost be a piggyback starter type scenario. You start Castillo and then you bring in Wade Miley as a bit of a changeup, pun intended, because that's really, when you compare the two pitchers' velocities, that's basically what it is. Now I'm not so sure. The more and more you watch Wade Miley, and the more that you compare it to the last time he pitched a full season for the Houston Astros in 2019, you see a lot of similarities. And because of that, I kind of wonder what we're going to get from him the rest of the way. It's a concern to look out for. The other thing that I noticed this weekend, and I've noticed it here lately, is a managerial style from David Bell. I was talking, and Chad and I were talking about this a little bit during our interview, which you can catch on the audio version in its full entirety, about Managers and how they manage this point in the season where everything is scrutinized. It's such a micro focus from the fan base, from writers, from national pundits, from other teams' fans, things like that. When you look at how David Bell has managed this team this month, it doesn't really match up with what you would expect. David Bell kind of manages the team in September as if it were still in May. He's getting guys playing time, and Jeff Hoffman was a perfect example of this. He brings Jeff Hoffman out. The Reds are down by 2. They just had a furious 8th inning where they scored a couple of runs and brought it within 2. I mean, the Dodgers were starting to warm up Kenley Jansen like, oh man, we got a save situation. This was after Clayton Kershaw pitched 5 beautiful shutout innings in which any pitch he threw went exactly where he wanted it, and the Reds couldn't touch him. But he was on a pitch count. He was on an innings limit. They hit that limit, so they took him out. And whenever they brought in Tony Gonsolin, that's when the Reds started getting their wheels turning. TJ Friedl, you had a run earlier against Gonsolin, I think. Wow. Yeah, just blank. Anyway, the Reds were starting to come back once you got into the Dodgers bullpen. And because of that, it really looked as if the Reds could maybe complete this comeback. I mean, there was a moment in the 8th inning when I'm like, hey, this could happen. So then David Bell decides to go to Jeff Hoffman, who before Saturday hadn't pitched for 2 weeks. He had 2 weeks off, pitched on Saturday, pitched a nice inning in the Saturday loss to the Dodgers. But then you ask him to pitch 2 days in a row. That sounds like you're trying to get some work for a guy. That doesn't make any sense in the month of September. And because of that, Jeff Hoffman came out and he was bad. He was giving up walks. He was giving up hits. And yes, the error by Kyle Farmer really stuck out because there was a chance to get an out to really get the inning moving in the momentum direction for the Reds. But after that, here's the thing that I've noticed with Jeff Hoffman all year. And if you've watched him for any amount of time, you understand this. When things go bad for Jeff Hoffman, they go really bad before he calms down. Because when things start going bad, he freaks out. He starts over pitching. He starts walking guys. He starts throwing up meatballs, all this stuff. Not good. Well, not only does it reek of David Bell trying to get him work, David Bell left him in way too long. I'm telling you, he was not good. And they left him in for just, I mean, he really looked like he was trying to get Jeff Hoffman some confidence boosting for some reason. I'm not really sure why. It was a bad decision, and it cost the Reds the game because the Dodgers scored 2 insurance runs at that point. He also made another decision. I don't think this one was as egregious, but in my mind, it made total sense at the time. You had a right-handed pitcher in the 8th inning up against Tyler Stevenson, and you had Joey Votto on the bench, and you had Nick Castellanos on base. If you pinch hit Joey Votto, I mean, Tyler Stevenson represented the tying run at that point. If you pinch hit Joey Votto, you've got a beautiful matchup because you've been jabbing. You've been hitting them with jabs. You've been hitting the Dodgers with jabs. And now you had a chance for a haymaker. And Joey Votto was that haymaker. But he left him in the bench. Now he pinch hit him on the 9th inning for the pitcher's spot. And Joey Votto, of course, hits a solo home run, which made me think, what if he had done that in the 8th inning and tied the game instead of hitting a solo home run in the 9th inning and making it 8-5? I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs there, but there's been some micro things that David Bell has done that I'm not been that happy with here recently. I don't know if this is maybe, he's overthinking himself or if he simply is managing September like it's earlier in the season and worrying about guys' egos and worry about, getting them confidence and getting them at bats or getting them, opportunities on the mound. I don't know. But the way that it's worked out in this Dodgers series, I understand. I said before, as long as the Reds don't get swept, I'll be happy with this series. But I almost categorize Sunday's game as a missed opportunity. I don't know. I could be off base with that. Let me know what you think. On the Locked On Reds line, 513-549-0159, or hit me up on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. And you can also follow the show at Locked On Reds. All right. I want to end today's YouTube episode with a clip. This is just Chad talking because, like I said, if I included myself, for some reason, my connection was awful last night and it's fine this morning. Technology spectrum. What are you going to do? So enjoy this clip and catch the entire interview on the audio version of today's Locked On Reds podcast.
Well, I'm not sure that I guess the average fan or whatever. I'm a pretty average fan, but I'm not sure people really understand how, mind blowing, how it's like an earthquake in the Reds ecosystem, basically.
Yes.
You have the Reds minor league pitching coordinator, an extremely well respected guy across baseball, and also the Reds minor league hitting coordinator on the very same day quitting and putting the Reds organization, on blast publicly. And this is something that doesn't happen in big league baseball. You don't see this ever, and it's a real indication of what I've been talking recently about, this kind of dysfunctional nature of the Reds ownership and management right now. And it blows me away, because this is one of the areas where the Reds had made serious progress in the last 2-3 years. Dick Williams just absolutely revitalized the minor league player development system, and it was starting to show real results. The Reds minor league, the ratings for the minor league system have gone way up from Baseball America, from
Top
everywhere.
10, aren't they?
Yeah, top 10 now. Basically, eighth or so. From the bottom, bottom 5 or 10 before these guys took over. And just the whole idea that the organization is quote unquote going in a different direction is completely ludicrous. And to me, it's another example of the complete mismanagement of this team from the Castellini family, and it's why they have to go. I mean, they're not going to listen to me, but well, they got to go.